Former UK leader Nigel Farage was taken to task yesterday over allegations by some that he may have encouraged the riots, with his comments about some Southport stabbings, of course.
One of the reasons the Southport riots were as bad as they were is we weren't told the truth. There were stories online from some very prominent folks with big followings, Andrew Tate, etc., suggesting the man had crossed the English Channel in a boat in October 2023, other suggestions that he was an active Muslim, and much of this led to the riots that we saw.
But you amplified that because you said some reports suggest...
I asked a very simple question.
So I'm joined now by Reform UK MP Lee Anderson. Lee, does Nigel bear any responsibility for the kind of tinderbox that we've got at the moment?
No, he doesn't, Patrick. The people that to blame for this is Parliament. And Nigel touches on this every single day. He talks about the effects of mass legal migration. He talks about the effects of mass illegal migration, and people in this country are fed up and down the country. And we've seen the madness again this week. I think Angela Rayner is stating that, you know, the illegal migrants that's coming over the channel, she's going to disperse these all over the country. And you know what? The problems we're having at the moment, which is shocking, Patrick, it's going to continue to happen unless we get to the nub of the problem and start having serious conversations with people in places like Ashfield and some of the places around the country that suffer these awful riots. Let's talk to these people and see what the problem is and try and put that problem right.
Do you think he was right to come out and essentially say that he was a bit misled by Andrew Tate? Do you think that was a good look?
I don't know. We'd have to speak to Nigel about that. I think, you know, Nigel, we have to remember that Nigel's not only a politician, and a good politician at that, he's also a broadcaster. So he's coming at two angles sometimes. He can ask difficult questions, you know, and make these statements, and a lot of it is thought-provoking, I will admit that from Nigel, but that's his job, and he's very good at it. And he doesn't shy away from the difficult issues. We've seen Starmer last week make this ridiculous speech on the steps of Downing Street. What did he do? You might as well have just chucked a bucket of petrol over a fire, because it's just exploded, hasn't it, over the past 7 days or so.
So you think Keir Starmer is more to blame for what we're seeing on the streets, the riots and the protests, than Nigel Farage?
I absolutely do, yeah. He denies that there's two-tier policing. We know there is. There's two-tier government, two-tier policing. It's been shocking, Patrick, what's happened this week. You know, we are sort of turning a blind eye to certain demographics in this country and focusing all our attentions, all our police resources onto another group of people. Yes, these people who are committing horrible crimes and damaging stuff and setting fire to cars and vehicles and buses and hotels, they need locking up, but it's got to be fair policing. And at the moment, it doesn't look fair to me. OK, well, it's interesting you should mention this, because actually I thought there was an astonishing intervention today by a chap called John Hayes, who was injured. I mean, this guy's a hero, OK? He's an absolute hero. He was injured trying to stop, excuse me, the Southport suspect last week. Now, he was actually stabbed in the leg during this incident. Now, he slammed Keir Starmer's response to the riots today. Let's have a little listen to what he said.
I actually don't think that the trouble and the riots has got anything at all to do with the Southport stabbings. There appears to be a strong undercurrent of discontent for some time about the levels of immigration, and this is just a catalyst or a trigger, but I don't think it's the root cause. And I'm not particularly politically motivated, but I do get dismayed when I hear Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper talking about, you know, the police are going to come down with the full force of the law, etc., on these people. But they're not actually talking about the root cause.
I thought that was really an astonishing intervention. Lee, what do you make of that?
Well, Mr. Hayes is quite right. You know, if Yvette Cooper and Sir Keir Starmer had got anything about them, they'd go and see this man, have a long conversation with him, because I think he's bang on the money here. And this man, what, in his 60s, he's lived a life, he's been involved in an horrific incident. He must be thinking now, he's lucky to be alive. He's had, you know, quite a long time now to think hard about this, what's happened to him and happened to those little girls. Now, go and speak to him. Go and speak to a real person that's been on the front line and have a listen to what he's got to say, Patrick.
There's a few aspects to this that are interesting, because that chap there sounded pretty mild-mannered.
Yeah.
He sounded like, I think, a relatively normal guy. He said he wasn't political at all. I'm inclined to believe him, really, from what he said there. And, you know, if he'd said that out on the streets at the moment, without the context of having been an alleged victim when it all came to this other thing, I wonder if there's a chance at the moment that he might have been called far-right.
He probably would. Again, this is at Starmer's door. He just keeps saying over the past week, it's far-right thugs. Yes, there are some far-right thugs out there on the streets. We know that, Patrick. But a lot of people are just disaffected people, especially the young men in this country. They've had enough. They don't see a decent future for themselves and their friends. Yeah, go on.
Well, it's just on this. I think it is important to try to... I know this is a very difficult situation, but, what would reform do now if you were in power to stop what we're seeing? Again, I'll say we're going to go back to Aldershot in a few minutes with Charlie Peters is out there. There's issues going on in Birmingham, parts of London, other areas in the UK right now. What would you do to try to stop this?
Well, a sensible conversation, Patrick, on mass immigration. It's affecting the whole of society at the moment. But first and foremost, politicians, instead of just locking people up, and they should be locked up if they're committing these horrible crimes, go and speak to these people. Sit down with these people. Talk to the community leaders. These people are not being listened to. Parliament doesn't represent this country at the moment. We know that for a fact. And if we don't listen to these people and try and find solutions to their problems, and by the way, it is mass immigration, then it's just going to continue forever. We can fill our prisons up. We can build as many prisons and prison cells as we want. This problem will continue to happen.
Keir Starmer will probably be quite happy tonight. So far. And I'm not, I don't want to preempt anything because anything can be a flashpoint in a minute. But, the police have been out in force. There's been these, quotes unquote, anti-fascist, anti-racist protests. As far as I can tell, at least a couple of them have just turned really into pro-Palestine protests, but whatever. And there's been no kind of full-scale race riots on the streets. And he might think that he's done a very good job because he's seen people sentenced, given long sentences today. He might be saying, I've got control of this, I've done it.
Yeah, but it's dividing the country, Patrick. It's all right appeasing one section of society, which he has done at the moment, but he's actually divided the country, and this undercurrent is going to be there, for a long, long time. And I fear for the future of this country. There are bitter people in this country seeing these men locked up today, and rightly so, but then they see the other two men from a few weeks back in Manchester who actually, beat these women, police women, to, horrific scenes there. They're walking the streets. They've not even been charged yet.
They've not been charged yet. It's something, obviously, the police will say that they're still investigating. Lee, thank you very much. Lee Anderson there.
Thank you.
Reform UK MP.